This is Stock Retail. Just want to take a look today using some logic to figure out for ourselves once and for all, is Adam seeking profitability for AMC, or is he seeking to pad his buddies' pocketbooks and drive AMC into the ground? I'm seeing some of that on Twitter and YouTube, and just want to go ahead and address it. And let's just go ahead and use logic and facts. We don't need to use emotional arguments, and we'll let the logic and the data speak for itself and help us decide, do we trust him or not? So the first thing is, I think we need to look at the past for a guide on what his behavior is and what's been happening. We now have 36 months of basically COVID, sort of COVID and post-COVID business behaviors, actions, steps that he's taken. And so for 36 months, 3 years, he's led AMC through the worst financial conditions there's ever been for theaters. And what I see is he's taken move after move to avoid bankruptcy. Go back through the history, look at all the times, especially during 2020, where they raised capital, avoided bankruptcy, sometimes at the midnight hour. You know, there were times they were on the edge of insolvency, and he took all the steps. And granted, some of those were painful steps, but they did, in fact, avoid bankruptcy. That's not even debatable. Here we are. AMC has not gone bankrupt. So, point of fact, 3 years, all of the steps he's taken have avoided bankruptcy. How about what's happening right now? So we're going to have the vote soon. He's told us about basically what I see in that vote, and you can look at my past couple videos. One explores the vote itself. One explores the idea of dilution and value creation. What I see in that vote is he's giving himself and the company access to capital through the least dilutive means possible. And access to capital ensures the long-range fiscal health of the company. You can't go bankrupt if you have the ability to have more money. So that is a current step, it seems. So we've got 3 years of history avoiding bankruptcy. We've got a current step avoiding bankruptcy. And then I look, you can also see other videos from me on forecasts. I've explained on a couple of these. If you're new to me, I have a business background in forecasting. Doesn't mean I'm right. It just means maybe I have some insights. But also, I think I've shared on several videos, the idea in forecasting is if you have a forecast, it's wrong. But the question is, can you at least be right directionally? I'm forecasting a 19% growth in the movie industry in terms of box office receipts in 2023. I even think there might be 2 profitable quarters, maybe even as many as 3 this year, which is a pretty big stinking deal. I kind of said that calmly, but seriously, a couple of profitable quarters this year would just explode the short thesis. And I see enough movies out there, in particular in Q2 and Q3, that there's some really big things coming. Additionally, we're adding popcorn this year, he's told us. He's already rolling out the credit card. He's added the Zoom meetings. So all of those things add revenues, add profits, and seem the opposite of bankruptcy to me. 2024, I'm projecting movies will then be at a 35% level above the year we just finished. So basically, I'm saying 24 grows on top of 23 growth. And then I'm just thinking too, by then, that's another 2 years. What happens if Hycroft is starting to roll out more extraction, getting more gold and silver, and who knows if they ever find lithium. And so by then, I'm just thinking to myself, there's got to be some return on that investment. It's another 2 years. I would believe there'd be some positive return, and that shows up on AMC's balance sheet. So that's going to be positive as well. And then I'm just believing that there's further growth and diversification, and every step he's taken in terms of either paying down debt, raising capital, investing. I talked in another video how he just bought the Boston property. That's a brand new property there from ArcLight. He's making moves that add cash flows. And so, over time, that's a healthier balance sheet. So what I see is a pattern has been established. 3 years seems enough to me to see a pattern and name it. He's got 3 years of avoiding bankruptcy, improving the balance sheet, adding revenues, and creating a future. So I think we can confidently say at least that's been the behavior pattern we've seen. And what I'm trying to get at here is just use logic. You let someone tell you who they are more with their actions than their words, right? And by the way, this is how you can have healthy relationships in real life too. If someone's words and actions don't match up, you start to question. So I'm going to look at his actions. I see 3 years of all of these behaviors, and 3 years seems like long enough to establish a pattern that I can maybe trust that pattern continues into the future. But let's keep going. So that's what I'm saying. Basically, I look at history and roadmap, and there's 2 possible conclusions out there, and this is what I see on Twitter. One conclusion is clearly he's guiding the company to solvency and profits. Okay, so I look at Everything I just said, 3 years of history, what I see on the table currently, what I see coming in the future, and I see him guiding the company to profitability. The other conclusion I see on Twitter then, not just Twitter, obviously YouTube, Reddit, etc., is, hey, he's bankrupting the company for his buddies so they can all profit. He's a plant and he's bankrupting the company. Okay, fine. So let's just use logic to look at, could that be true? And first off, it's already been 3 years. I just showed you how, and you could see this even in a few Wall Street analysts' posts and things. There's enough cash for sure to get through 2023. Frankly, it's pretty obvious they're going to get to at least 2026. And by then they could even refinance that debt that's due. So what are the pros and cons of taking 5 to 7 years? Go back to the pandemic. We're already at 3 years. It's really, really easily provable that this is going to be at least 5 to 7 years from the pandemic before they would ever go bankrupt. And if you've seen me, my point of view is they never will. But let's just pretend they will. Why would it take 5 to 7 years if he's a plant doing his master's bidding? So first off, the longer this plays out, the more expensive it is for the shorts. Let's think through why. They have cost to borrow. There is cash going out the door for the shorts to hold their position. They have opportunity cost. I talked about that a long time ago in a Reddit post if you want to go find me. Basically why time is on the side of the longs and not on the shorts. The longer this takes, the better it is for longs, actually. I know it's hard for us to wait, it stinks, but it's costing shorts. Time is costing them. So look up this idea of opportunity cost or go read my post that kind of explains it. But the short of it is, shorts have money tied up in this play. That's money they can't use to invest somewhere else and grow that money. That money's just stuck, sitting, frozen. There's an opportunity cost for them. They're paying money for bot farms that are attacking us, paid shills, that's costing them. Their PsyOps team that's attacking us. All of those are overhead. That's a cost to maintain this position and try to win. Meanwhile, they're also lobbying. We see them trying to impact regulations and all of that. So there's all these costs around maintaining their short position and trying to win. And the longer this goes, the more costly it is for them. Yet I see people trying to argue that Adam's in their pocket. Well, if he's in their pocket, he's doing a really cruddy job because it's taken years and it's going to take several years more. So that's either he's terrible at it or he's not in their pocket. Meanwhile, bankruptcy's been on the table the entire time. I told you in 2020 in particular, but even in 21 and even if had he made intentional bad moves in 2022, it would have been easy to bankrupt AMC by now. And once that happens, the shorts win big time. So you tell me, if it's been on the table, every opportunity's been there to go bankrupt, and yet he hasn't done it, exactly how you could make the argument he's in their pocket. But let's keep going. So, as I said, why not bankrupt the company sooner if he's some villain in their pocket? It's been 3 years of the worst financial conditions ever for theaters, and yet they're not bankrupt yet. So there's really two warring theses. Okay, Adam, the execs, and the board have fought for 3 years to keep AMC afloat through the hardest financial period ever for theaters. They're on the cusp of financial stability, the movie industry is improving, basically the win is inevitable, and survival has already been accomplished. There were a lot worse financial days than where we are now, and it's continually getting better. So that's one. All right, they survived, they did a good job, they're getting us towards profits. Or you say, forget all that, he's in some cabal, he's seeking to profit the shorts, he's their buddy. For some reason, he's waiting 5 to 7 years to do it. You'd have to explain to me why. And by the way, he doesn't care about the millions of shares he's invested in. He's just going to let those go to zero. So what I really want to kind of highlight again is look at the past for clues on character, so that 3 years of history that we've got on him, and look at the future for clues on results. So right now, he's seeking the capital needed in the least dilutive method possible to continue to ensure not just survival, but I think growth. Look at my kind of video on dilution if you want to kind of see how I believe you can use that to grow value. And then the future outlook is improved. I talked about what 2023 looks like, the diversification as well, what 2024 looks like. So I see 3 years of history of behavior avoiding bankruptcy. I see current actions that are sort of opposed to bankruptcy, and I see a future outlook that ensures no bankruptcy. So I just don't know what to tell you. Seems if you go through all of this and you say we got 3 years of history, current action, future outlook, all of those point anti-bankruptcy, and then someone wants to turn around and say, nope, he's their buddy, he wants to bankrupt them. Ask them to say why and to prove why, because it's pretty insane.